step, but give me some other negatives. Give us some other negatives. There's got to be some, because this was a huge debate.
Yeah, I think
implemented it.
I think we're both, good students. We care a lot about our academics, and honestly, I think most of the concern is from the students, like, I don't have 85 minutes to sit around and not do my homework, And so, while there are still some concerns, most of the concerns are coming from the kids who don't want to see a certain teacher every day, or don't want to go to math every day. And we're both in 0 hour, and since we're juniors, we take it from 0 to 8. So that's one thing. It's kind of a long day to go from 7:10 to 3:20. But other than
if
that,
we had our way, you'd be there till 5 and all year round. So. Well, thank you for being honest. And the accountability piece is huge. That was a big adjustment for students and faculty. So we know that. So it's impressive to hear students like you that have embraced that and realize it's that added rigor and that added accountability piece is to your benefit, even if you're going to go out to the workforce. Go ahead, Beth.
I'm there from 7:10 to 6 usually because of practice for sports. So, and I still find a way to get my homework done. So like Grace said, I think it's just mostly taking accountability and embracing what you have to get done.
Well, it's amazing how more efficient you can be during that class period time if you know that if you're going to slack off during the class period, you're going to have more homework.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, I know it was a huge adjustment for everybody, and so I've appreciated the openness that our kids have had as far as talking to me. Another group that I've got feedback from were the students that came and addressed the board and had concerns and had come to me beforehand. I've touched base with every one of them on how things have been going this year and how the 7-period day has gone, and so I kept that promise to them as far as getting feedback, and we've had really good discussions about things, and I'm glad to say that the adjustment has been, although the first couple months everybody was adjusting. This was new to every single person, parents, kids. About the only ones who really this wasn't new to were the freshmen, because they were used to an 8-period day, but still the whole high school experience was new to them. So everybody was doing something new, and so I'm glad to see now that we're getting the feedback as far as settling in on things. And then the last component as far as feedback that I get is I try to visit with teachers as far as outside of my teacher leadership committee. I get some feedback when I solicit it from teachers. Sometimes I get some unsolicited feedback from teachers about things, and for the most part it's been pretty good. It's been pretty positive, and I've got a couple teachers here. Beth actually to represent a core teacher, core content as far as math, but then also Don Merle talk about our vocational and career and tech programs and what they've seen as far as the transition through in 7-period day. So I'll turn it over to Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Ashley. I lead the math department. I'm also on the building leadership team. From a core teacher standpoint, being able to see my kids every single day, not only is it the reason I'm there and I get to see them every day, we get to build the relationships immediately. I see your face every day, and I'm going to say your name every day instead of every other day. We get to build those relationships, but we also get to see that content quicker, shorter, faster, more immediate bursts. They retain so much better, and it wasn't an adjustment at the beginning of the year. We had a certain amount that we were used to trying to teach, and then having the kids do some extra, hoping that they would put a little that night and then a little the next day so that they could get the repetition every day from when we were doing the block schedule. But now that I get to see them every single day, if I can get them to look at their homework 5 or 10 minutes a day, that sparks the memory, and it helps them retain it for the next day. As far as our college and career ready standards, we're a month ahead of what we were last year. We're a month ahead of where we were. So I know that our Engage New York program and things like that have been helping us push forward, and we kept saying, in 5 years, we'll be there, in 5 years. But we're getting closer to that 5-year point, and now that we've got our kids every single day, we're jumping them even that much faster. I love it.
let Mr. Merle fill you in on transition and how things are going on career in tech and vocational.
Sorry about the glare. My name is Don Merle, and I'm the Industrial Arts Department head. I've been teaching here 26 years, so I know that this too shall pass. When we were going to this, I really wasn't that concerned about it, but I know that we had a lot of teachers who were extremely concerned about it, and especially teachers who taught hands-on courses. There are some, I hate to say drawbacks, but there are some very big differences in going from that to what we're on. It's much more difficult as a teacher if you have a lot of supplies in your class to gather those that many times a week. If you have things like equipment breakdown and those sorts of failures, it interferes with a lot more of your courses. I mean, let's be honest. You got to have your ducks in a row, or the ducks will eat you alive in this schedule as a teacher, especially as a hands-on teacher. We were really concerned about things like shop classes. Would we be able to do this? And a lot of our concerns, I have to admit, came out to be exactly 180 degrees opposite of what we thought they were going to be, which still shocks me. I can speak personally from my program. I teach welding and metals, and there's a lot of, going out, dressing up, cleaning up, picking up. There's a lot of that time in each one of those courses. And I really wondered how that was going to affect us. But actually, we're about 20% ahead of our curriculum in comparison to last year. This fall, we had 100% of our students earn the OSHA 10 certification, which has never happened in the history of our program. We had 100% of our students earn at least one AWS National Welding Certification. Never happened in the history of our program. So what we've learned is that there was a lot of time being wasted in those 90-minute classes. Whether it be student, waste of time, or maybe teachers not using the time. We just learned that maybe our apprehension was not really, it didn't come to fruition. And so, from that standpoint, I would say it's a lot easier for us to gain relationships with kids when we see them so many more times a week. And, we all know that's a major part of education. And so I would say, in general, there are some drawbacks in terms of how difficult it is to teach our types of classes, but things are a lot better than we thought they were going to be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So we're continually trying to get feedback. We're continually trying to gather data as far as academic data. We continue to use our advisory groups, our leadership teams to gather that data. But so far we've been, not going to say we were absolutely perfect, but I think we've done pretty well with the implementation of a brand new schedule like this, especially considering it was really new for everybody involved. There wasn't a person in the school that had done that the year before. And so, it's been pretty good, and I appreciate your support through it, and I think we've done a good job with it, and we'll just continue to improve, continue to try to evaluate and reflect.
I did have a question. Is there any way to build flexibility for the students in that 7-period day? So, for example, if they wanted to take a 0-hour class but leave the campus, one period earlier to get to a job or to do something else, can we do that?
We're doing it now, yes, for seniors. Right now, we tried to experiment this year for seniors to see how it was going to work. We tried a limited experiment, so seniors enrolled in 0-hour leave our excuse from the day at 2:25 when that bell rings. It's been very popular with our seniors.
Can that work for staff as well if they choose to teach, the 0 plus 6 more?
Yes, we're doing that with 1 or 2 staff members who decided they wanted to teach the 0-hour, but we weren't sure about the overload. That went along with it.
Actually, we only use one academic overload for a 0-hour. The rest of the teachers have their 7th hour off, so they float from 0 to 6.
I really like that, that gives both the students and perhaps some of the staff at least, a little more control over their schedule and what they're doing. So I think that's another reason why it's probably good to teach in Garden City, because there's flexibility built in.
Flexibility in the schedule for students and teachers, and so it's been pretty popular.
I guess that would be my question, maybe to the teacher, is your planning time has cut significantly, and how has that been, how has that impact?
I've just become more efficient. We have planning time every day. So every day I'm able to get a little bit done, whereas I had to get a whole lot done in one chunk every other day before.
I would definitely say I'm very thankful that now I at least get a plan time every day to run, grab things, and do those things. But then we had it every other day. But sometimes that was twice a week, and sometimes that was 3 times a week. And if you really weren't organized, it didn't work out so well. So I would say once again, it's better having a shorter time every day in this schedule. I'm very thankful that I have that, to be able to get those ducks in a row.
Did you feel like the freshmen came in, the transition to the high school schedule a little bit easier than the times?
Yeah, as the former freshman academy principal, I tried to keep an eye on them and how things were going in that first semester, and I do think so. Coming from our middle schools where they're used to seeing that teacher every day, they're used to doing those things for even shorter periods of time with an 8-period schedule as opposed to 7. I think our freshmen made a pretty good transition. I know that they used to really struggle with discipline, self-discipline on things when I got some homework, but it's not due till 2 days from now. And and then 2 days from now the homework's due, and I forgot it. I forgot to schedule that. Or not seeing a teacher for 4 days. If you had them on a Thursday, then you didn't have that teacher again till Monday. That's a long time for a 13-year-old or 14-year-old to be disciplined as far as getting that homework in and things. And so I thought it was pretty smooth for the freshmen. The freshmen have enough to transition to as far as a 385,000 square foot building. We try to keep them in the freshman academy and make that big building small, but still, PE and ag classes, and it's a big building, and that's a big transition, and I think this change has helped them.
I have one question. And it's not about your presentation. Later on today, we're going to be talking about changing our start time for the schools. I mean, how's that going to affect your 0 hour? And because everything I read, high school kids should start later instead of earlier. So I hate to put you on the spot like that.
And I appreciate it, because we've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about it, and we've talked to Mr. Stillian about it. We're all on board with, my administration, especially with this proposal. We've talked to the 0 hour teachers. They think the 20 minutes difference in the start time would be something that we would be able to manage. We've talked to some kids about it. They would still, I'm still in considering that. The big advantage for us comes on the end as far as missing school time. Being able to dismiss at 3 instead of 3:20, when you look at the loss of school time for our kids that are involved in activities, that's big. And it may seem like, it's just 20 minutes. It's big. So being able to dismiss closer to 3 would be a very positive thing for us at the high school on the back end. And then our kids that aren't involved in activities that just need to go to work and be at work by 4. Well, they're running out of the building at 3:20 now to get out of our parking lot and to get to work by 4 o'clock. This is going to benefit those kids too. And might open up some additional people interested in an 8th hour, because now you're talking about starting it at 3:15 and running till just after 4 instead of starting it at 3:45 and going till 4:30 or later. So we might be able to add some flexibility on the back end of the schedule too, with an earlier dismissal time.
I've heard that data as well, talking about high school students working better at a later time it starts. come see our kids in the first 3 hours of the day. They're productive. A lot of times those are the classes where you see a lot of activity, but they're also doing a lot more. And in fact, several teachers have said they want certain classes in the morning because the kids are more productive in those classes.
Beth and Gray, do you agree?
Yeah, I think I'm more like, I'm a morning person. I'd rather have my harder classes. Actually, I tell my counselor to have my harder classes in the morning because I feel like more productive, more awake. Later in the day, you know, after lunch, you get a little like tired and.
Especially when you're leaving for an activity, it's
Yeah.
probably not till 4th or 5th hour. So when you get like Trig and AP US History out by 3rd hour, then you don't have to miss those classes.
Our loss of school time that we report to the state is pretty big, and being able, we take a look at our late dismissal time. It's, I think, the second latest of all the WAC schools. I think only Liberal dismisses later than we do. Hayes is 3 o'clock. Dodge is 3 o'clock. It kind of puts us in line a little more with some of the other WAC schools. That's I'm glad you asked.
I didn't mean to put.
No, I'm glad you asked, because we had talked about it a lot. Yeah, we really had talked about it a lot. We're in favor of it just because it does add that flexibility. Even to the end of the day, it helps those kids that have to go to work. It helps those kids that are involved in activities. We're talking about a 7:50 start time at the high school. Most of our kids are either there or arriving already at 7:50. You know.
You get better parking places.
You get the best spot. Yeah. Yep. So I appreciate you asking. Thank you.
I want you girls to know that change doesn't get any easier the older you get, so just be prepared.
I'd just like to really compliment the students and the staff at the high school. Dr. Hopkins mentioned that change is never easy. But I think as a total school community, you embraced this with a good attitude, and you've been flexible. You've tried to be as accommodating as you can based on the needs, and I see that will continue. And the impetus behind doing this was to create a better environment for kids and learning, and I think you're seeing that. It's not perfect. No schedule is going to be. There is no magic perfect schedule out there, but it's really encouraging to hear about the great things and the results that you're seeing out of it. So thanks for your effort, your hard work to keep up the good work. I know every year you'll make it better and better.
That's the intent. Thank you.
Claire. Thank you so much for your input. Thanks, girls. You're senior. No, we're both. Oh. Sorry. Thank you.
While they're setting that up, I'd like to begin by giving an introduction. As you know, actually Mr. Hogan has spoken to you about the shortage of teachers. And so one of the decisions that we made is that it is critical that we have a certified teacher in our classrooms. And so we were given the task of looking at 3 different situations, and ours is the intervention. And you talked about change. This definitely is going to cost some staff to make that change, and it's going to be tough for some individuals. We're hoping not, but however, we took the task to explore effective ways to provide intervention to our students. And one of the things that the team has decided and we've got some people that are in that team. Through some research, we came up with some ideas that I think will help each school in providing that effective intervention with our students. One of the things too that we decided is that MTSS is something that we want to continue to see implemented in our schools because it has made effective change in academics for our students. And so we've got a presentation of what kinds of interventions our students can receive and our schools can provide to meet that need.
Can we have our committee members stand up? Because we had 12 people who attended multiple meetings. So I want to thank them all for all the time they put in. I know some of them couldn't be here because they had job issues.
And there's a list of our committee members.
And Kyle Sawyer has not gone to Kenneth Henderson. He's still at Horace Good, but that was it. So don't worry, Carla, you're not losing it. Oh, one of the things we were tasked with, first of all, was defining what an interventionist was. And so what we'd like you guys to know is that it could be a Title I teacher, it could be an ESL teacher, and they were working on bringing up the academic skills of students who weren't at grade level. I'm kind of summarizing this for you. And so that was really a difficult task. In the end, we met several times. We met with Mr. Hogan, Mrs. Roderick, Scott, to really hash out which of all the big long lists there were. Well, we haven't shared that, all of it yet out because they wanted to meet with some of the principals. We do have 43 identified interventionists in the district at this time. So.
Okay. Like Rafaela said, our mission was to investigate how to provide quality intervention programs while maintaining the current level of service with fewer certified staff members. And we believe no matter how we look at it, if we have to decrease the number of interventionists, our quality probably won't be what it is right now with 100%. But we started, she also mentioned MTSS. We felt this was something that we've implemented over the years and how important it's been to us and building our interventionist program. So our reading is fully implemented. Math, they're currently working on implementing the MTSS. And behavior, we're just in the beginning stages. So once all of those things are in place, we feel the staff can look at the student as a whole. Is it behavior problems, a math problem, a reading problem? What's causing these issues? Schools have implemented walk-to programs for Tier 2, and most schools have implemented a push-in or a pull-out program for their Tier 3. I think we skipped one. Oh yeah, MTSS establishes a structure. So we have that structure in place that looks the same for each building. So it may not look exactly the same, but it gives a similar way to build that structure. It provides procedures for making the decisions about students, and it gives us the data, helps us base it on data, and it focuses our data discussions. So we're not, well, I feel, or any of that. We look at the students' data and where they need to be. It's also helped us get our PLCs, our collaborative meetings, SAT, BLT, all of those things. It's helped us establish those and how those need to work.
Anybody need definitions for the alphabet soup? PLCs are the professional learning communities, the grade level meetings that we hold, or subject level meetings we hold so the teachers talk about the kids, do planning, do a lot of our professional development. SAT is working with those kids who are struggling. Student assisted team, it's for kids who might be struggling academically or behaviorally or both. We try and come up with plans to help them be successful. BLT is your building leadership team, which every building should have one. They meet at least once a month for 2 hours. And then the structure's up to each building how they do that. But so we have a lot of different tiers of structure within each individual building.
So before we leave MTSS, I'm sorry, Janet. My ignorance is going to be obvious here. I didn't think MTSS was optional. Is it optional, or is it how we implement it that we're talking about?
And we can, as a district, we can choose to be an MTSS district or not choose, but we don't want to move away from it. That's why we put that in there, because we want that to be.
We are an MTSS
Yes.
district. We 100% behind it, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
But But we just wanted to reiterate how important it is
Okay.
to us and how it leads into
And how
the
you're gonna
interventions.
use it to get your students successful. Okay, got it.
It's built our interventions
Okay,
program for us.
thanks. And BLT is a good sandwich too, by the way.
Absolutely.
Okay. If we can keep interventionists the same as we have them now, we'd like to just continue doing what we're doing. Letting buildings decide how they want to use their interventionists that they have in their building, depending on Title I funding. That's how it is now. They've just been able to decide how to use those funds. So we feel like we are being successful in that. So if we can keep it the same, we would like to just continue. And then we got to the hard part of talking about if we were not going to have as many staff members doing interventions as we do now. So looking at our 43 staff members and having maybe 75% of those, we started to come up with some ideas or maybe suggestions, options that we could implement to kind of help with that. So for example, paying overloads to teachers, probably starting with interventionists, or so that we can provide that structured intervention time for students that need it. That could be determined by semester, depending on time of year, what the need is for the school. Looking at maybe hiring more paraprofessionals and giving them additional training to provide the structured Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions. And utilizing other staff members to provide our intervention time. Mentioned doing walk-to interventions. A lot of our other staff members in our buildings, maybe like PE or, for example, might do an enrichment intervention, or during that walk-to time, do some kind of enrichment. But it might be that now they would have to do more of a Tier 2 intervention instead.
Can I ask you a quick question on bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4? Who would provide the additional training?
That would either have to come from the interventionist who knows that program well, or some other core teacher who knows the program, someone that's good at whatever program they would want them to implement.
But isn't the current interventionist, won't they be working with students, so?
So they would have to find some time to train those people to do those interventions. But if we don't have enough people, then we have to have someone to help get those kids where they need to be.
I don't know how you would find time to train people that don't know how to do what you're doing already. I mean, as an interventionist, you're working from the time school starts until the time school ends, correct? So I guess that bullet point has some concerns for me, is how do we provide additional training if everyone's working?
We could take our PLC time to do that. Instead of them going to the reading or the math PLC, they could take the time and say, okay, we're gonna pull compares for this 30, 40 minute block, and we're gonna really focus for the first week of school during that time on how to teach you how to use like phonics splits, or I don't know, a lot of the elementary, I'm gonna use our programs, Take Aim, or some of the ones that we're actually using Relive.
I don't know, raises a flag, so I'm sorry to interrupt.
Raises the flag for us too.
Thank you.
But, I mean, I guess to play devil's advocate, teachers are always getting additional training, paras are always getting additional training. Not that this is ideal, but additional training is going on every day for whatever, not just intervention.
No. But they would have to know how to run that program effectively to make it beneficial for the students.
No, I think the question was the time.
Oh.
For additional training. I mean, we're doing additional training sometime during the, teachers are getting additional training every day. We're finding time. It's not ideal, but, I mean, it's never ideal.
We wouldn't have to make it work.
I wasn't asking about time, I was asking who's gonna provide additional training.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, you talking about PLC time, that would be time to train them, but who's gonna train them when they're working with students with micro?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
It would have to be the interventionist during their planning time. We'd have to come up with a plan.
Some other ideas we came up with just to maybe reinforce academics for students. Increasing the number of students that we have in Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. Now that wouldn't be necessarily following the MTSS guidelines that we are supposed to be following, but if we are short-staffed and we are looking at helping as many kids as we can, that might end up having to be a last resort. We had some discussions about doing some work outside of the school day just to help boost academics. So doing some after-school tutoring, maybe modeling that after the KRR program that we are doing with that grant this year. We're considering some extended school year options. Again, those wouldn't be helping us with MTSS during the day, but those might help just with our students that are lacking. That could just help boost them a little bit. We also did a survey for the interventionists in the district and asked what kind of duties they do outside of just giving interventions. So there's a lot of data collection, paperwork kind of thing. So with less staff, that would be a bigger burden. So the option that was thrown out was maybe hiring some clerical staff to help with data collection or data entry or things that interventionists are taking on currently.
I'm sorry, just to make sure I've got one of the draft here in bullet point 1, and I apologize.
That's okay.
It's a
We
month.
know what we're talking about.
So, you're not talking about, you're talking about like the small groups.
Yes.
Increasing the small groups, so it's almost like increasing the teacher to student ratio, not the number of people who are in Tier 2 and the number of people who are in Tier 3.
It would be the group sizes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I understood that, sorry.
And one other concern that came up would be that we can't require students to come before or after school, so those numbers may not be there, because if they can't get a ride home, we can't make them stay. So that's the concern of having them do a before or after school program, but that was just one of the other concerns that was brought up, so.
What was KRR involved there? KRR, what is that?
KRR is the Kansas Reading Roadmap
Okay.
program, the grant.
Thanks.
So we have 5 elementary schools that are currently doing that. So just kind of maybe modeling an after-school program after that. That wouldn't be through the grant. But.
Could you just clarify what grade levels we're talking about here?
Pre-K through 8
Okay,
is represented. So some of these ideas may not work for the pre-K schools or the elementary schools, but they may work for intermediate or 7th to 8th grade, and some vice versa. We have to cover that whole area of grade levels.
So in addition to the suggestions or options we gave at 75%, if we cut our intervention, the number of interventionists that we have in half, this is not ideal, but this might be a reality. We might be asking interventionists to do our highest need first, and then that starts to fall on classroom teachers to provide some Tier 2 time, which is still following the MTSS model. We'd probably just have larger enrichment groups than what we have at some schools right now. So just basically being more flexible with the staff that we do have in our building. Again, our interventions are just adjusted as we benchmark, so that changes during time of year, depending on how many students we might have. And again, just looking at maybe paying more overload so that we can continue following MTSS and providing those interventions.
I'm sorry. I know we've talked a lot about MTSS, and I know what tier 2 is, I know what tier 3 is, and probably most people in this room know what tier 2 and tier 3 is. But the people who are watching might not know what tier 2 and tier 3 is. I mean, they might be thinking of winning teams, I don't know. Can you explain just briefly what those two tiers are?
Tier 2 is our kids that aren't quite meeting benchmark, but are falling below, like maybe 1 grade level. Tier 3 is our low kids that are way below benchmark, so they're our lowest kids. Tier 1 are our kids that are at benchmark or above, so at grade level.
And so our tier, in reading, our tier 3 students receive 60 minutes of intense instruction with a group of 3 or less. And our tier 2 receive 30 minutes of instruction with a group of 6 or less. So that's what we're talking about when we're saying that we might be asking a staff member to do a group of 6 for tier 2 when they were doing maybe a reading intervention with some 12 tier 1 students. So those 12 tier 1 students have to join another group because we're asking another teacher to provide. Whereas right now, I think almost all of our interventions are covered by interventionists. So
I would say that's K4. When it gets to 5K, it's different.
Our core teachers cover a lot of our interventions and our interventionists, and then our counselors, PE, all of those people, enrichment teachers, they cover our tier 1. And we started at the beginning of the year in our building with about 17 kids in their tier 1, and now we're up to 25. So that's how many we've moved out of those tier 2 groups into those other groups. So the system works when it's in place. Any other questions?
I just had a question, just to clarify. So the students are mobile within the tier 2, tier 3, tier 1 groups, and when they learn enough to be able to go to a lower tier, you were able to place them in that. It's not something you're in and you stay in and you're just accumulating a lot of students there. They're because they need to be.
They're there because they need to be, and if they don't make the gains they think they're making, we can pull them in at any time. We can.
So it's a pretty flexible situation.
I can't help but take a step farther back and think, okay, this is great at helping the kid that, and the student that needs help, but what if we could capture that student before they needed help? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's the value, what's the educational value dollar on makerspace and that drone or a robot or something to capture a kid's attention and imagination and just get them excited about learning versus helping them when they're behind? You know, and I know there's no answer to that question, but I wish that we could figure that out, because it's great to help a kid that's falling behind, but it's even better if we could keep a kid from falling behind.
which I think is why we're having this discussion, because, we have 21 long-term subs currently
Yeah.
and 43 certified teachers who are interventionists. So I think that's why we're having the discussion. It's not an
Yeah.
easy discussion. I'm an interventionist, so I, of course, think what we do is fantastic.
And don't
But I
get me
know it-
wrong, I
but-
totally agree with you, completely agree with you. But I'm also super excited about some technology pilots we have going on. But how do you justify buying technology versus an interventionist? I mean, how do you do that? Please, don't, this is, Governor?
I don't think it's a money issue, it's a
personnel issue.
Right, and I'm not saying that a piece of technology is gonna replace the interventionist. I think it's a timing issue. I think technology has the opportunity to keep a student from making them less likely to fall behind. Not just technology. You know, a great teacher does that before an interventionist is necessary. What I'm trying to say is, what can we do to capture more kids before they need help catching up to the rest of their class? How do we keep them from getting behind? So, I hope, please, thank you for clarifying, and I am not saying that we're weighing a teacher versus a piece of equipment. I'm not.
I hear you, keep them engaged, keep them
Yeah, capture them, you know, look at those two girls today that were coding from VO that were